Hey, Intrapulation here, and this is When the Man Comes Around, Chapter 2. And, I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've uploaded anything. And I'm not gonna make any excuses. I shouldn't have trusted the people I trusted. Lesson learned, don't trust people. Anyway, the voice actor position for female roles is still wide open. I thought it was closed, but no, it's still wide open. So if you're someone who has a wonderful female voice and a decent microphone and not a potato, please hit me up. My contact information is in the description. Skype or email, I don't really care. Though I would inquire that you actually are interested and want to give me lines and not keep me waiting. So, I'll begin the story now, and without any further ado, even though it's been about a month. I am truly sorry. I am apologizing from the pits of my tiny black heart. Anyway, I've been rambling on now, so I will begin the story. Yay! Oh, I forgot to say, this time we have actually one voice actor. It's the person doing Graves, and I would actually like to thank what's his name? Hold on, let me check my Skype. Matthew from Norway. So thank you, Matthew from Norway, for supplying your wonderful... voice. You're the one person who actually gave me their lines, so... thank you. When the Man Comes Around, Chapter 2. As the traveler walked along, the babble of crowds in the town center quickly faded away. Out here, away from the bustle and commotion, the only sounds to be heard were the rustling of wind in branches and the droning of a few lazy bees. Soon, the forest scattering of trees began to thin out, slowly shifting from unkept wilderness into orderly rows of well-dressed apple trees. It was clear that each tree had received plenty of loving care to grow so strong and healthy. With sturdy trunks and vibrant viridian leaves, each tree's dozens of branches hung heavily with ripe, delicious fruit that ranged in color from deep red to bright green to brilliant gold shining in the sunlight. It was as if...
Ow!
The traveler said, more out of surprise than pain, as he felt an unexpected thump on his head. At his feet, a bright red apple rolled to a stop. Picking up the fruit, the young man looked overhead at the branches, wondering where it had come from, and noticed a mass of leaves moving in a distinctly odd manner. Peering a little more closely, he was quite surprised when all of a sudden, a small, freckled face popped out.
"Gee, sorry about that, mister,"
the young girl replied, disappearing back into the leaves before shimmering down the tree trunk. Once aground, she stood there grinning at him, wearing little jean overalls, a big pink bow on her head, and an even bigger smile on her face. The traveler could see that she was missing one of her front teeth.
"I was trying to get that one,"
she said, pointing at the apple at his feet.
"but it looks like it got away from me."
It's fine,
he said, giving the apple a quick polish before handing it back to her.
"Thanks, mister,"
she replied, and immediately took a big, noisy bite.
"Though, what brings you out to Sweet Apple Acres?"
the little girl asked with a mouthful of fruit.
looking for Miss Twilight Sparkle. I was told she might be here.
The child mumbled thoughtfully, taking another bite of apple.
"You should talk to Applejack. He'd probably know. Come on, I'll throw you. Come on, I'll throw you."
And with that, the little girl skipped off, giving the traveler no choice but to follow along. Rather bemused, to say the least. As a stranger, and a man familiar with strangers, being accepted so openly was not normal. Nice, but definitely not normal. Making their way through the orchard, the little girl led into a sturdy old barn and a farmhouse, where several large baskets of apples sat next to a horse-drawing carriage. The little girl led them to a sturdy old barn and farmhouse, where several large baskets of apples sat next to a horse-drawn carriage.
"Hey, Applejack!"
The little girl hollered at the top of her lungs.
"Where are you at? We got a visitor!" "Apple Bloom, what in tarnation are you yelling about here?"
Came another voice from inside the barn. A moment later, a cute blonde girl in a tied-up checkered shirt and Stetsons stepped out with yet another basket of apples. She, too, had freckles.
Oh, there you are, Thith,
said the younger girl as she skipped over to Applejack, who apparently was her sister if the traveler had understood the lisp right.
This guy's looking for Twilight, and someone told him that she'd be here. Have you seen her around?
Applejack looked up, and just noticed that there indeed was a stranger standing there with them. Well, shucks, beg your pardon for that, mister, she said, dropping the basket of apples next to the others. I've been running around so much I can't tell heads from tails no more. Welcome to Sweet Apple Acres. The name's Applejack. With that, she took the traveler's hand in hers and gave him a firm handshake. Though she only came up to chin height on him, the strength of her grip would have put many men to shame.
No problem,
He replied, returning the shake, albeit not so enthusiastically.
Miss Pinkie Pie said I might find Miss Twilight Sparkle here.
You're looking for Twilight? Shoot, you just missed her. Just stopped in not some 10 minutes ago checking in about them apples. Apples, which my sister here, she added, sending the young girl a keen glare, should be helping me load up. The gap-toothed girl gave her sister a sheepish grin. Oops. I'll take you over there as soon as I'm finished. Applejack grunted as she lifted a basket of fruit. So why don't you make yourself at home while I finish up here? The traveler took a look at Applejack, then at Applebloom, and then the number of baskets to be loaded. The little girl probably wouldn't be able to help much with the heavy lifting, and the number of baskets meant that there would indeed be a lot of heavy lifting. Regardless of how tough this Applejack was, she was still a girl. Hey, what's you doing, mister? Applebloom asked. Applejack turned from the wagon and watched the traveler set down his thing and take up a basket of apples instead. Oh, that's mighty kind of you, mister, Applejack said. But I can't be asking a guest to help out with my work. It just ain't right.
You didn't. I volunteered.
The traveler shrugged, leaving the basket onto the cart, and squatted to pick up another.
Besides, a man shouldn't rest while a lady's working.
This last comment brought a surprise, but a rather pleased grin to Applejack's face. After all, people didn't often call a tough girl like her a lady. Well, ain't you just the gentlemaniest feller I ever did meet? Thanks, stranger. She grinned, tipping her head in salute. I sure do appreciate it. The three set off to load the wagon, the two older ones loading the basket onto the wagon as little Applebloom dragged them towards the front. As they worked, the two sisters began chatting about Ponyville's upcoming festivities. So, what do they need all these apples for, Applejack? Little Applebloom asked as she struggled to drag an extra full basket forwards. Why, it's for the marshals, of course, Applejack replied. You know that the apples from our orchard are some of the best around. That's why we figured that if we're gonna welcome such a mighty fine band of Equestria's finest, we ought to do it with the best we got, and that'd be with our apples.
These marshals,
the traveler grunted with more fruit.
They're a big deal.
Of course they are,
Applebloom chimed in, almost invisible behind the basket stacked higher than she was tall.
The royal marshals are like superheroes. They go where there's trouble and stomp it out so that folks like us can live in peace. My friend Scootaloo's always talking about how she'd join them if she wasn't already joining the Wonderbolts.
Wonderbolts? Applejack asked. As in, the best band of rune flyers in the country? Those Wonderbolts?
Yep,
the little girl nodded.
Of course, she doesn't have her own set of wings yet, so it's still kinda early to say. That's why she practices with Rainbow Dash. But it's not the same as having your own, you know? They sure are fancy flyers. I'll give 'em that.
Applejack agreed, heaving up another basket. But I still say them marshals is more impressive. The Wonderbolts put on shows, but the marshals, well, they go around helping people, you know? Lending a hand to folks in need, no matter how long the road, or how dangerous the trip. I think that kind of selflessness makes them something else entirely. The traveler just picked up another basket. In fairly short order, the three of them had all the apples loaded and ready to go. Placing her fist into the small of her back, Applejack leaned back and cracked her stiff spine. It sounded like tree branches snapping. Well, stranger, I gotta say, I sure am grateful for your assistance. Applejack grinned as she gave him a hearty slap on the back. The traveler couldn't help but wince. Girl or not, she could probably knock over lesser men with that kind of power. So anywho, we'll drop these off with Pinkie Pie and see if we can't rustle up Twi's where... Uh-oh. Applejack's smile disappeared faster than the sun behind a storm cloud.
Time to hit the deck.
What?
Was all he managed to get out.
Gah!
The traveler had barely turned around before what could only be described as a solid rainbow hit him square in the stomach and catapulted him back a good 20 feet. At least.
Rainbow Dash, are you alright?
Applejack asked as he rushed over.
I think so. Good thing I landed on something that broke my fall? Oops. Sorry about that.
Looking up from where he'd been sprawling, the traveler saw a young lady in a cyan tank top and athletic shorts sitting on his stomach with a sheepishly apologetic grin on her face. Actually, it took him a moment to notice these, because the first thing he noticed was the very obvious head of short locks, shining in every color imaginable.
Rainbow Dash, I presume?
The traveler finally asked, his voice slightly strained. After all, it's not that easy to talk with somebody using your stomach as a cushion.
The one and only,
she declared, jumping up and actually striking a pose before reaching down to help him up.
Sorry about crashing into you and stuff. Twilight sent me over to check on Applejack, and I figured I'd use the time to try out some new tricks.
Tricks?
The young man asked.
Yeah, I'm training for the Wonderbolts. Once I get a routine set up, I'm heading up to Canterlot to show them my stuff. Check it.
Turning halfway around, she displayed the runework frame on her back, where 2 luminescent aquamarine wings fluttered softly.
Built this bad boy from scratch. With this little guy, I'm gonna be the greatest flyer in all of Equestria. I don't get it,
Applebloom asked, brow furrowed in confusion.
If you're trying out for the Wonderbolts, then why are there trick crafting into people?
Applejack only kept from laughing out loud by clamping a hand over her mouth. And the traveler almost broke into a smile. Rainbow Dash gave the little imp the stink eye.
I wasn't supposed to crash, Pipsqueak. I was going for a double aerial backflip into an introverted barrel roll so I could... Oh my gosh! What happened to your hand?
Looking down, the traveler was surprised the back of his left hand had been cut.
Huh. Probably nicked myself in the fall.
He shrugged. It wasn't that much of a big deal, really. Dare say, hardly even a scratch. But from the way the 3 girls started fussing, you'd think that he just spilled his innards all over the ground.
Rainbow,
Applejack huffed in obvious consternation.
It's a miracle you didn't kill him, flying around crashing into him like you did. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh! I am so sorry about this.
Rainbow Dash babbled, flooding around him in a nervous tizzy.
Please tell me you're alright. Oh, I'm such a klutz. You're not gonna die, are you? He's gonna die?
Applebloom wailed, tears starting to brim in her eyes as the grisly thought of his impending demise.
But that's...
No one's gonna die, sweetie, Applejack said, giving her sister a reassuring pat on the head. We just gotta get him patched up is all.
It's not a big deal. Really.
The traveler said, trying to reassure them. It didn't work.
Not a big deal?
Rainbow Dash gasped.
Are you crazy? Look at yourself. You're practically leaking all your gooey parts all over the ground. How can you be...
The rest of Rainbow Dash's gruesome tirade was cut off as Applebloom really began wailing in earnest.
All right, that's enough of this hogwash,
the blonde cowgirl said firmly. Rainbow Dash, you take this feller down to Fluttershy's place. I go with you, but I gotta bring these apples in, and that's plumb in the other direction. Applebloom, you go inside to see if Granny Smith needs any help around the house. You hear?
You got it, boss,
Rainbow Dash replied, throwing a crisp salute.
Come on, mister. We gotta get you patched up pronto.
Seizing him by his other arm, Rainbow Dash practically yanked it out of his socket as she dragged the traveler off. He didn't even have time to grab his things. And that, my friends, is Chapter 2. Like I said before, voice actor positions open. I could probably use a few female positions for all of the female cast. So many So many cars passing by, it's annoying. I don't know if that's getting to the mic. Anyway, yeah, so there's the main 6. You got Cutie Mark Crusaders. There's a few other roles, I think, for other female voices. I can probably manage the male ones. Except for Graves, I have somebody doing that. Yeah. And I got texted a lot during this frickin' read. I don't know if that came to, I don't know if that was annoying, but it was for me. What the hell? What's being said? Did you want to watch more Bees and the Eagles? That's an inside joke. For those of you who've seen Shingeki no Kyojin or Attack on Titan, you should probably watch that, by the way. If you haven't, you should probably watch that. You know the intro, the really epic intro? It sounds like Bees and the Eagle. It's funny to me and my friend, so that's the inside joke. Yeah, so, this is chapter 2, and I'll see you and your beautiful little face in chapter 3, so, I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Okay, that's it.